The deadlift, one of the most important, if not the most vital compound exercise you can have in your armoury. Unlike the squat, where you sit into the movement, the deadlift hangs on a perfect hip hinge, pushing back with those hips, rolling the bar or dumbbells down the front of the legs before dropping at the knees. The move is completed by a full extension of the torso. The deadlift is one of 3 powerlifting exercises, along with the squat and the bench press. Your feet should be roughly hip width apart, with your hands just outside of this. You should have a full grip on the bar, and your shoulders should be slightly in front of the bar. Maintain your lumbar curve. Keep your heels down, pushing through the feet as you slide the bar down the fronts of your legs and gently drop at the knees. Really drive back with those hips. Remember, this is the deadlift, not the squat. Push those hips all the way back. Keep that bar close to the legs before dropping. You'll find if you don't have full-size bumper plates to use, you may only want to drop to the shin rather than completely to the floor. It's much easier to have the large plates on the bar. Squeeze that core. That's crucially important with the deadlift as well. Push those hips all the way back. Think hips first as you start the movement, and you'll notice that you can see almost a straight line from my head right to my tailbone. I keep my shoulders back, my chest up, and I push back with those hips before I drop down at the knees. There are lots of variations of the deadlift that you can try at home. These are superb exercises for helping to improve strength in your quads, strength in your glutes, and strength in your lower back. What you're seeing here is the Sumo deadlift. You'll notice that for this one, my feet are more than hip width apart. In fact, they're fairly wide, and I have my hands on the inside of this straight in front of me. I find the Sumo deadlift a good variation if I'm going to lift heavy, but the principle is the same. I'm still pushing back with those hips before dropping at the knees down to the floor. With plates this size, you can see how you can start the deadlift in the correct position with your lumbar curve maintained from the floor. If you're using dumbbells or a smaller bar, you may want to start from a standing position and roll that bar down the front of your legs. This is the dumbbell deadlift. Again, we're sticking with the same principles. Keep those dumbbells close to the front of your legs. Roll down the thighs as you push those hips all the way back. Maintain that back posture. Keep the chest up and the core tight. Make sure that your hips drive all the way back before dropping at the knees. You may find that this is a trickier thing to do with dumbbells, especially if they're the spin lock variety. It's quite hard to keep them close to the front of your thighs, but it's not impossible. And at times like these, when we've got weights at home that are not as heavy as the ones we may be using in the gym, this is a really good variation. You can also practice your technique with something like a broom handle, just to get that movement of the hips. Here you're seeing a Sumo deadlift with a kettlebell. This is a really good way to introduce yourself to the Sumo deadlift move. Watch my hips drive all the way back before I drop to the floor. With a Sumo deadlift, you may find that you can go slightly heavier. This is a suitcase deadlift. With this one, instead of holding the dumbbells out front, I'm holding them to the side. But again, I'm still going with that hip hinge right from the start. And finally, the stiff leg deadlift. With this, you have a slight flexion at the knee, but that is all. I maintain a stiff leg throughout the entire maneuver until I get almost a tabletop flat back. If this is hard, this is something that you should work to progress to. You may find if you've got tight calves or tight hamstrings that this is particularly difficult for you. The two exercises tend to go hand in hand and are a really good way of developing those muscles. There are so many variations of the deadlift. Give these a go, perfect your technique. Don't worry about using a lightweight to begin with. It's a really good way of making sure you've got technique before you progress onto something heavier and we all get back in the gym and can start looking at those bigger weight plates.